I'm Sara Danial, and I'm an advertising and comms professional, but I love to be associated with books and literature and authors. And Sabine has always been very kind, and I've been associated with Ananke for the past 2, 3 years. I also completed my fellowship with them. And let me just allow you guys to introduce yourselves. So why don't we start with Shalini?
Sure. Hi, I'm Shalini. I'm Dr. Shalini Mullick. I'm a medical doctor, and that is what my
Wow.
9 to 5 avatar is. I also enjoy writing. I love writing short stories, but I also have two books to my credit. So one is Stars from the Borderless Sea, which is very much in tune with the theme we'll be discussing today. And the second one arrived just about 2 hours back, so it's extra special. It has to be home. And
Congratulations.
thank you so much. So
Congratulations.
thank you.
Yeah.
Other than this, I also enjoy writing poetry, a little bit of it. I don't do too much, I'm not too good at it. But short stories are something that I really love writing as well as reading. And I do write a lot of
Wonderful.
nonfiction. Also, op-eds and columns are something that I really enjoy. So, and I'm really looking forward to this discussion. And thank you to Ananke for having us here.
Likewise, thanks, Shalini. So, Kritika, what about you? What do you do? Do you have something else as a side, as a 9 to 5?
Yes. So I'm a chartered accountant by education, and
Wow.
my parents, my mother has been into the garment industry for the past 3 decades, and I've always watched her, struggle with the business side of design and textile. So very early on, I decided to kind of mentor startups. So I mentor startups, and I have an enterprise of my own, a garment and jewelry enterprise. And I love to write, and I think it gives like a very positive outlet to my dreamy mind and my opinionated self while executing my and pursuing my life. Yeah. So this is the book that I've recently published with Readomania, Vanilla Loves and Dusky Lives. Again, it is a collection of 10 short stories that speak about how eccentric loves should be normalized and how the society should battle the right battles, and not focus on small things, rather look at the real social evils that need our fighting. So which are often hidden behind curtains, and so it's very relevant to the topic being discussed today.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Ananke, for having me and for giving this platform to all of us women who wish to make a little change or do their bit into the tides of and waves of time. Thank you.
Right. So let's move on to Aditi. Aditi, what do you do besides writing?
So besides writing, I write.
Oh, wonderful.
I write for corporate, I write for brands, I write for my work right now. So I've written for different brands
Are
across.
you a comms professional as well?
Yes, I've been working as a content specialist, content marketer in the past, currently. And I have been blogging for brands like Make My Trip, Apple, Capillary Technologies, and right now CA here in Poland. And so that's the writing that is for work. That's my bread and butter. This is the writing which is from my heart, which is books. And I published the book, my first fiction with Readomania, Do I Not Marry?
Yeah, I read about it.
Yes. So I've written short stories in the past, again, dealing with how relationships, sometimes we do not speak up and why we need to speak up in those relationships. And like Kritika said, fight the right battles. That's very important. And yes, so I have been I have been writing for brands during the weekdays and writing for myself and what I really want to write over the weekends. So that's how I can sum up my life.
Wonderful. I was just telling Shalini and Kritika that I'm also an advertising and comms professional, and I take care of content as well. I'm the head of content
Great.
So I take care of Meta and PUBG and Dubai tourism. So I also write for brands during the weekdays, and then I write from my heart during the weekends. But so moving on to the topic, how do you guys think? What are the cultural expectations? I mean, do you think marriage and live-in are kind of compartmentalized in a certain way? Are they looked upon a certain way? Uh, why don't we start with Aditi?
Okay. So, I think it probably depends, like you mentioned, culture. It probably depends from country to country because the landscape is very different where we
Yeah,
grow.
yeah,
So while we can speak of, I've born, brought up in India, I can definitely speak for, and my book was also written from that perspective, that it's hard for people to kind of still accept live-in relationships or still go by how love marriages are accepted. Or if they're accepted on the face of it, is it really easy to pull that off later on?
yeah,
Um, so I think generally, if I were to speak, while here, I was talking here in Poland, I was talking to my friends about this book and they wanted to read and they said, oh, yeah, it's a problem in the teenagers. And I was like, no, I'm not talking about teenagers here.
yeah, yeah,
So that's when I realized that, the country, the culture, plays a very big role in kind of compartmentalizing because their worries I understand because and when I told them that it's not the teenagers I'm talking about adults eating more. So they it kind of took them a while that why
yeah,
it has to be like why it has to be like really fought for, like two people like each other, and if they really want to try out or test their relationship, then they should really go for it. If it works, it
yeah,
works. It doesn't work, it doesn't work. But in our society, especially the society that I come from, I've grown up with, I think we put a lot of emphasis on permanence,
absolutely.
So it's whether it's a marriage or a live-in relationship, it needs to be permanent. So that fixation with permanence in life is where we really need to kind of let it let it go, or
Let it go.
be easy on people. So that's what
Right.
I do.
Kriti, what is your stance on this? I mean,
Yeah, so as far as culture is concerned, or society is concerned, I seconding Aditi and yet also like complimenting her and yet also putting another point up front is I feel that boundaries or geographical boundaries are kind of merging now.
yeah,
Like say we do have a lot of English content on our shows and or our series or even on our phones which are influencing us through and through,
yeah,
and if we cannot if we are agreeing with it and internally agreeing with it and externally not being able to apply that into our lives, that is kind of bringing out a resentment amongst many people because that's
right,
kind of it's coming into our mindset. We are accepting that living is okay, but when we're seeing it around us or we're not yet culturally trying to change it or accept it like that. So that is kind of creating an
a
inhibition,
rift
a
and a gap.
resistance is
Yeah,
yes, yeah. And so I feel that over time, the people who are kind of willing to accept change would be able to modify, like would be able to mold themselves, and they would probably have better lives going forward. And people who would keep on resisting would as it is in every situation. It's not just in this concept, but change is inevitable. And
yeah,
so even the acceptance of eccentric relationships or live-in relationships, or the fact that two adults now need to test their relationship, or as Aditi rightly pointed out, to let go of the thought of permanence, or
yeah,
or the fact that stability only comes from a piece of paper.
yeah,
That change is coming, and it should be celebrated rather than be resisted.
absolutely. I completely agree. Shalini, what do you have to say about this? Because,
Oh, I agree completely with Aditi.
Yeah.
And what Kritika said gives me a lot of hope that eventually
Yeah,
we
I'd
are
like
going
to see that
to
one.
but I mean, like, it's a very distant hope, honestly, if you ask me. I think marriage is a very, very, very big thing. It's highly
It is.
overrated. It's
It is.
highly emotionally charged. Not just for the people
Definitely emotionally
getting
charged.
married, but like for tons of people around them. And I haven't been able to see that change. Yes, I agree with Kritika that we have a lot of outside exposure, and all of us know that India, or for that matter, I think all of us in the global south, there are many different strata. But even in the kind of people where I have seen exposure, I have not yet seen that much acceptance. Yes, people
Really?
are trying it out.
Why do you think so?
People are trying it out, but people are not they're not coming it out in the open about trying it out, because they are not getting the acceptance or understanding even from their immediate family. So I know people who are living in another city, they're living with someone, but their parents will not know about it.
Yeah.
So
Do you think this is a generation problem? I mean, this is
Yeah.
or
yeah,
because there are a lot of other adults as well. I mean, mujhe yaad hai, I remember Salam Namaste coming out, Saif Ali Khan and Preeti Zinta's movie, and that was the
Right.
first kind of a movie that kind of normalized and live-in relationships, and that came across as very objectionable. At the same time, it was accepted also. People liked that movie. Do you think और वो उस जमाने में सोशल मीडिया नहीं था, so do you think it was kind of starting to ingrain these kind of concepts? Were people influenced by it?
maybe, but also the fact that it resonated with the people means that this thought was already there.
Yeah,
An AI
yeah,
thought is not going to come and resonate so well with people, right? So
right.
that means that people and any people who want to explore relationships have always wanted to, but
Yeah,
they are not allowed to. So when I said emotionally charged, that's what I mean, that a marriage is not just for those two people. You have entire families hanging on to the concept of iski shadi ho jayegi to ye hoga. I mean, give them a break, they're people. So that's what I meant when I said, and honestly, I see the world today getting more and more polarized across all socioeconomic backgrounds. And not accepting live in is also a part and parcel of that. When you see how arranged marriages, especially, are constructed, we'll come to love marriages later, they're
yeah,
based around different things which will polarize caste, religion, everything.
yeah.
And I find that seeping in more. So, how can, the two things then become contradictory? I find less acceptance in the people around me today in anything, for anything, less tolerance. So then how
Less
would
tolerance.
people accept? And live-ins are not just for trying out a relationship. You could have people living in because their relationships are not validated by society. We're not talking only about heteronormative relationships,
Yeah.
right?
Yes,
So
Yeah,
exactly.
then will overall become more accepting. I don't see, for example, I know someone who is in a live-in relationship. She's been in a live-in relationship for like 18 years. Yet on every occasion, she is the one who will come without her partner.
really?
Yes, and even people who are in the most
After 18
populous,
years, is that possible?
yes, yes, I know this person, and people who are in the worst kind of marriages will still come and pose,
Come
and they'll
together
come in these
and yeah,
family things.
yeah.
So, I mean, I do hope that what Kritika is saying comes true, but unfortunately, I've not seen it enough.
Right, right,
So,
right.
but I'm telling you, if it doesn't come true, then the mental health of people is going to really go down. Because as you said, Salam Namaste came in and
Hmm.
people accepted it because internally they do accept it, but they're
Yeah.
not ready to, they have that resistance in accepting it in front of others or in their external environment. So till
Yeah.
how long would that resistance stay?
और उस मूवी में एक्सटर्नल एनवायरनमेंट्स का इतना ज्यादा नहीं बताया था. They did not
Yeah.
have parents in the movie or
Yeah.
whatever.
It was
Right,
not
So
even
right,
set in
right.
Not
India
really
in
yeah, yeah,
adding
place.
that jabardasti ka pregnancy to make it happen. It's
to bring that
contrived.
permanence.
Yeah, so it's
Right,
contrived. You're not talking only
Right.
about what the two people want. So
Absolutely, absolutely. So, do you think is today's generation? I mean, because just to kind of extrapolate the conversation because we just agreed that it might be a generational problem, right? The older people are not kind of accepting, they want their children settled, if marriage is what settled means. But I mean, does it come with a baggage of responsibility? Is today's generation just does not want that kind of baggage of responsibility to carry with themselves? Is that why they are going for live-ins?
Um, so I feel that over time, people or very soon people are going to realize that they have to be very responsible for themselves, uh,
Yeah.
and to pile on their in any sort of their responsibility, may it be financial, may it be emotional, may it be mental, is not going to work out between two people in any way.
Right.
When the other person's not willing to kind of, a codependent situation would work when the synergies are there. However, if synergies are not present and two people are trying to put their emotional or their financial requirements on the other person, in any case, whether it is marriage or live-in relationship or any other structure, that kind of a form would not ultimately
Work out. Yeah.
work out. Yeah, exactly. So if live-in relationship is a solution to kind of test the ability of whether two people can work out their synergies, I think it's a very big step, and it's a very good thing rather than getting married and being in a situation where two people are not able to and then they realize that we are not whole ourselves, we are dependent on another person to complete us, and we are not getting that from our partner. So rather than saying that somebody is running away from responsibilities when they're choosing a flexible situation, I think people are being more sensible by choosing something that they might not, which they're not sure
Want to
that
go
they
along
would be
with.
able to live up to.
Yeah, yeah. Shalini, Aditi, what do you have to say?
So I read this statistic by a psychologist a couple of days back, which is quite shocking, and I still can't believe. I'm still searching how far it's true. It said that 50% of Indian men today, include in metros, still prefer their parents or family to help them with marriage, finding the suitable match. And I was shocked. I'm still searching through, and trying to jot down. And that is because they just don't want to get into, like you said, the baggage. They do not want to get into the after effect of it. They probably would have tried a relationship, doesn't work with them. Like, I have known a lot of my cousins whose relationships didn't work. They didn't give it a second chance because they had to really go forward, and like it was like they just had to move on, and they were like that, okay. I think when we actually realize that, the importance of that we want to spend our life, we need a companion. The path is very different, whether you choose a live-in relationship or a marriage. When we truly believe, rather than we go in this format that, okay, we have to get married, we are at this age, that itself is a very wrong notion. We are crossing 30. So when we do this, is the first mistake. We should really stop. Maybe we are not right for it. We are not ready for it. That one. Living is a very intelligent move, I believe. I seriously believe that, two people, given the kind of exposure and the environment we live in, it's only going to grow multifold from here. It makes much more sense if today people live in first and then decide whether they really want to get married or stay the way they are. After all, marriage is not it's a man created institution,
Yeah.
Exactly.
human created. It's not nowhere written that you have to get married or something. So it's like you want to spend life. That is the true blue the truest form of companionship, is spending time together, being with someone. Marriage is something we as a society tell that, okay, you're spending time together, let's get married.
Yeah.
That's what I believe.
Shalini, your thoughts on this, please.
So again, slightly different from the other two. But before that, I think marriage is, I'll go with what you said the first time, Aditi. Man created. I don't think any woman created marriage.
I I intentionally chose
I
that.
agree with that.
It's too different, but I think I'll stick with man created. So my thoughts on this are just a little different. The basic thing that we were discussing was about responsibilities. I
Yeah.
think there are two kinds of people choosing live-in relationships. One is, of course, the intelligent and evolved kinds, which Kritika and Aditi spoke about. And I think that that's sensible. And I have seen people do it, of course, younger people. They're also doing it for other reasons. They're also doing it because they're looking for their own place in life, and we change. So they are aware of that. But there are also, unfortunately, in our highly patriarchal society, there are people who will do it for the wrong reasons. Because you see, the only justification of marriage over live-in that I can really propose is that at least the female has some security, some safeguards. We're
Yeah.
not discussing whether they're enough or what, but there
Yeah.
is something. In a live-in marriage, it's even more of a skewed relationship if it does not work out, or if both the people are not on the same plane. So the potential for misuse and abuse of a live-in relationship is more than in a marriage. And about trying it out, well, all of us evolve at different stages of life. I mean, people walk out of marriages after 20 years, 30 years, because you just don't feel that both of you have grown together in the same way. So I'm not sure whether you can put a time limit on, if this works, we'll get married. I think a live-in relationship is based on the comfort of a couple, basis where they are at that time and place. So they
Yeah.
do it, and then a lot of them progress to marriage. Some of them don't work out. So each has a different thing. So I think that there are people who don't want to take up the responsibility also. There are those kinds of people, and we should not forget that while we sort of endorse a live-in relationship, it's only going to, be nice if the women are more educated. They're able to stand up for themselves even more than in a marriage. So that's just a, voice of concern in this.
Right. So, also with responsibility, I believe emotional well-being is a big part of, do you think marriage and then the baggage of responsibility uh, punctuates your emotional well-being? I mean, because mental health, हमारे यहाँ marriage is not just a marriage with the man. You marry the whole, the khandan and the tabbar. So, do you think that emotional well-being is really affected, and is it just affected? Is the female the only one that is affected? The man kind of gets away with it.
No, I'd like to just start because it just came
Sure.
in my head. Yeah. So I think there is both men, women, I do feel the baggage here, especially if I talk about today's generation and all, they definitely feel the baggage. Also, when it comes to like a woman feel that there is a lot of, you marrying the whole khana and the mental well-being goes for a toss. I feel it is at a different level for a live-in relationships also, because that insecurity, that if you have that thing, so if you are very much contented with what you are, where you are, and as a couple you feel that this is the way it is and you have accepted it, then it's fine. But of course you will deal with certain things like if you want to kind of maybe see this live-in relationship turning into marriage, eventually you will start getting insecurity pangs, and then the mental health will definitely go for a toss. So the baggage comes in there. And coming back to your second point, of course, I'm not denying the baggage that comes with marriage. There is a whole family to deal with, there are another pressures. But I feel the set of pressures you deal when you're in a live-in relationship, not just as a couple, but even living in a society. Like if you live in a society where you have families and all, when you go out, you attend functions and all those ceremonies, you know how you are looked down upon. Like, everyone knows you're in a live-in relationship. So that's hard. And maybe sometimes, in this whole pressure, if you decide that, okay, let's get married, but that should not be the case. So that's another emotional baggage that they carry. And the second point of men and women sharing, I feel they equally share at their both, they equally share. The only hard part is that, if a woman is kind of coming into, husband's family and, staying with them and all, then it's a lot. It is there. then there is a lot of that has to be dealt with. And because it's very generational, it has been seeded from such a long time that a son-in-law is still a son-in-law, no matter how many mistakes you do. Daughter-in-law, if you do mistakes, and even if it is very petty, it will be, given to you as a joke or something like that. So that is definitely there. But men also feel the equal pressure, because somewhere they, they are kind of literally sandwiched between their family and there's someone they have
They
spent
don't
their
get to
life.
talk about it.
Yes, someone they've spent life with all those years, and someone they want to spend the rest of the life with. So for them also, I feel it's kind of hard, and because they have not been conditioned, they don't know how to kind of respond. They follow what their fathers, or how they've seen, how they see the society, and they want to probably bring in a change, but they don't know probably where to start from. That's what I feel.
What about you, Kritika? What do you have to say about this?
So I personally feel that the kind of, as Aditi was saying, the pressure that comes in being married in Asian households with more family involved and the entire societal baggage. I think there is a huge difference between, that's my opinion, that there's a huge difference in the kind of baggage that comes in there versus the kind of futuristic relationships that the next generation is looking at, maybe live-in or situationships and all of that. Because I think that if within a marriage there are so many people involved right now that there's a lot of chain of trauma that is being passed on from one person to another person. Another person's trauma is becoming another person's, and then that person's passing that on to their children and so forth. And there's blame games, and I think so many of our constructive hours in our lives are lost, where we could be doing so much more with our energy. And we spend that time dealing with something that should have probably been dealt with 20 years back. Somebody's mom-in-law, father-in-law has gone through something, then they're taking it out on the other person, and that person's dealing with that trauma, rather than the counseling happening of the senior of the house. And comparatively, where you look at live-in relationships, I feel at least the person involved in it is going to be sane, right? Like, if as long as they are sane, they're in the live-in relationship. The moment they feel that this is touching a point of insanity, they don't have to go through years of court cases and paperwork and all of that and fighting to get out of it. So there is a huge difference in that kind of baggage. Having said that, and as far as women's security and stability is concerned, I think going ahead, women have to begin taking care of their own stability and security, irrespective of whether they are mothers, or irrespective of whether they have spent those years in, and I'm sure that when women start taking charge of themselves, the world would become conducive enough and provide them the environment. The universe would start responding in that manner for them to become, stable themselves. So instead of kind of putting a structure to and saying that, oh, this structure should be able to take care of me, I think if I'm able to say that I'm taking care of myself, whether I'm in a marriage or whether I'm in a live-in relationship, I think that is a huge shift that we should be able to see. And as far as men and women go, I think they bear equal amount of stress, they bear equal amount of baggage, and they bear equal amount of trauma in any kind of a toxic or an abusive situation. So whether it is marriage or whether it is live-in, I think they're both having to deal with what the rough edges that a society has to offer.
Right, Shalini, what's your take on this?
I think it's absolutely, I agree with everybody here. So I think with marriage, to oversimplify, I'll just use the word good stuff and the bad stuff. The bad stuff becomes the good stuff. The permanence is what people want, and the permanence, as Kritika pointed out, is also what makes things very difficult. There is a lot of baggage in marriages, and especially Asian marriages. The amount of baggage, the amount of conversation, the amount of paraphernalia that it brings is almost not worth it. Even in a good, well-adjusted marriage. Uh, and having said that, in a in a situation of a live-in relationship, there is baggage again. That is of insecurity. That is of lack of identity. Because whatever you say, we identify with our society, even as we try and go against it. So that
Yeah.
is finding that space for yourself is a challenge. And it is something, as Aditi said, that how you will be looked upon, how you will be um, accepted or not accepted is always going to be a stressor because you are the outlier till it gets normalized, till we normalize relationships, writing on cards, so and so plus one, or
Yeah.
please bring partner, till it is normalized, that question mark is going to be there. And no two people, however much in love or well adjusted they are, can live in a vacuum. We do live in the society. So
Yeah.
again and again, yes, men and women suffer equally. And I honestly now have started believing that we have it slightly better because we have a lot of places where we can talk about it, write about it. I have not heard men even say that they need such conversations, leave alone having them. And that definitely adds on to the baggage, as Kritika pointed out. The men are sandwiched, as Aditi said, and then it's like, if my mom could do this, why couldn't you do this? And then the woman obviously feels, I'm not your mom, I'm an individual.
Yeah.
So respect for individuality gets lost when men are responding under pressure. And that will stretch any relationship, whether it's marriage or live in. So I think, again, the pros and the cons remain the same depending on the situation that you are in for
Yeah.
both.
And then taking the same point forward, I was wondering if you know are now, because women are kind of making themselves independent. We are, I think, probably the first or the second, I would say, the generation who's trying to become economically and financially independent. And then when you enter into a marriage, and then of course there is this responsibility juggling, and then the kids are involved, and then the family is always there. Even if you're living separately from your family, you still have to kind of make them a part of your lives, right? So how do you think are men, uh, while women have become independent, are men also equipped to deal with that independence? Because once, for example, I'm going to work, is the man equipped to take care of the child back home? Because they're not equipped, not in Pakistan, I would say, for my country. So I don't know, what is your take on this?
So I think that it might take a little more time, but we're going to get there. I think men are going to be able to see that the woman who's working is exhausted, needs support, is going to be able to step up and be able to take care of things. And also, I feel that maybe more in this, I do appreciate the Western culture because they've come up with infrastructure and facilities as well that take care of a single mom's or a working mom's requirements. And I do feel that if there is
Yeah.
change that is happening, ecosystem would definitely provide that as well. So in situations where both the parents are working, there would be daycare facilities, and we might have to uncondition ourselves to believe that, oh, a mother is only a good mother if she spends an X number of hours on her child, or that, oh, only if she is
Absolutely.
making her hair or changing the diaper, only then she would qualify to be a good mother. So that definition and that conditioning might get resistance, but it might require us to gradually change. However, I do feel that once, I think that the overall that situation and that setup would definitely come in, and fathers themselves would step in, and that harmonious relationship that we do require and we want our children to be a part of. So very recently I went to admit my daughter into a school, and the school was not and it's a legendary school in the city I'm from, and you know, they asked me what I do, and they wanted me to assure them that I'm going to be there to serve my child lunch at 2 p.m., warm food by my own self, and they were not pro working mothers, and they were very honest about that. And I was
Yeah.
going to give my daughter into a school which is telling me right there that we do not we prefer house women, like women who are working, who are at home. We prefer housewives, and we do not
Stay at
encourage
home moms, yeah.
working women. And I had to, you know, I got up out of the interview. I was sitting with the principal, and you know, when I went out, I was like, "This is not the school I can send my daughter in. I'm going to educate
Yeah.
her, and then coerce her into doing something that she never thought of doing her entire life. Like immediately after she gets married, she has this entire burden of domestic duties just to handle by herself. And you know, this is definitely got to change. And whether it is men
This is
doing
not
it
making the
themselves.
child independent either. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So the conditioning that only a mother can provide a certain thing, like a certain comfort or a certain sort of this thing, and like mother is going to provide the comfort. However, mother is required to do a certain number of domestic duties to be able to prove herself. That conditioning has to be undone,
I don't think so.
is what I
Yeah.
believe. Yeah.
Right. Aditi?
Yeah, I agree with Kritika that, so there is definitely, I can see fathers coming up and, trying their best, but they're probably very clueless in this space.
They are. They're
Because,
kind of experimenting. The
yes,
fathers are not mothers.
Okay.
yes, and I don't blame them. I really
We
have
don't blame
all
them.
the support because they've not seen that. They've
It's
not
their
seen
first
anywhere.
child. Yeah.
Yes. So it's kind of, yes, more challenging for them. And what has to stop is definitely the conditioning that has grown, that has been growing and that is kind of spreading out. And also the kind of, like Kritika said, that you need to kind of prove every time that you spend certain number of hours and, then only you're kind of qualify as the best mother, or I don't know, that kind of insanity that you have to reach. A mother is a mother. You should never, I feel, you should never entitle parent or father
Question.
or parents
Yeah.
as best or worst. I personally had this issue. I used to send my daughter to daycare and I used to work and I used to come 1 hour before. And you won't believe that the watchman of my society, he used to say that you come at 4 o'clock, you pick your daughter's car comes at 5 o'clock. Why don't you go at 4 o'clock and pick your
And
daughter?
take it.
God.
Yeah. Oh my
So
God.
I was like, okay, I have to take it. And he's like,
You don't need family to kind of judge you.
I was like, forget about family.
Oh my
And this
God.
is really, I mean, I was literally speechless. I was like, what should I tell him now? What is that?
Yeah. अब
But
उससे क्या बहस करना वाली बात हो जाती है, but
exactly.
you know there needs to be a full stop somewhere.
Yes, so that's when I
One needs to
realized
put their
that
foot down.
it's not just family, it's like it's so ingrained deeply that, how could you
Yeah.
leave that whole daycare to your child, to your daycare and all? No one would understand that, I'm coming, I'm commuting. I need that 1 hour time to kind of just be
Unwind. Yeah.
easy so that when my daughter comes, I am like at least charged up. I do
Yeah.
not give her those long faces and that I'm fed up and all
Yes,
because
yes,
she doesn't,
yes.
but no one understands that. But so it is, that has to stop. And when that stops, I think probably fathers, the males will kind of come up and they will try to understand because I feel whenever they try to, come up and do little step, they always feel that is it, kind of manly to do this? I have kind of observed this, with people in different setups that, sometimes in some of the families or something, they will say that, some food is
The
left.
women of the family will do that. I
Yeah.
believe. Oh, let the mother do it. You know,
Yeah.
Yes, that there's
she knows
something like
better.
that. So the
Yeah.
father kind of steps up, he wants to, but he doesn't know, like I said, they are in a clueless space. How we can help them is definitely by, telling them that this is just, let's not, typecast us as mother, father, besides the biological process that it involves. That's about it. But once the child is there, I think it's very important to kind of see yourself as a parent, and period. That's it. That's what I feel.
Right.
So yes,
Right.
but fathers are coming up. I hope to see, and I can see that they will definitely grow more from here.
Hopefully. Shalini, why do I see a smirk on your face for this one?
It's like, okay. So what I want to say here is, honey, if someone can be the CEO, if someone can manage all the finances, be on top of their careers, be neurosurgeons, be top lawyers, they know what they need to do. Okay. I mean, I am sorry, Aditi, I don't think I need to tell them, teach them, and be very nice to them. Okay. They
Yeah.
know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, why they're not doing it is because it's working for them. Patriarchy is working for them. Ingrained patriarchy is, I mean, okay, I don't know what you want to say to this. It is collective gaslighting. It's been done for
It is.
centuries.
It is.
Correct. So I'm sorry, I don't have that kind of
She said
sympathy.
it.
I don't have that kind of
And
sympathy.
women, I believe women are part of the patriarchy. Don't you think so?
I
Yes.
Yeah,
completely agree,
absolutely.
Sara,
Absolutely.
and we've been talking about this in many forums. I think
Yeah.
how it happened is, I'm not justifying it, but
We let them happen.
women had to ingrain patriarchy to assure their own place in the society. Like the
Mm.
mother-in-law needs the
Private.
approval of her husband to have her place, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it is something which is ingrained in both men and women.
It's a vicious
Even
cycle.
women.
Yeah.
Even women. So
Mm.
one is ingrained patriarchy. And the second reason why men are not doing even sort of like an iota of what they should be doing is a scam called the superwoman scam, the superwoman syndrome.
That needs to be busted.
That needs to be busted, right?
It
I
needs
don't
to
need
be
a
busted.
certificate from anyone telling me I'm a superwoman. The more I
Yeah,
do, the
we
smarter
don't
the
want to be.
right. So my thing on this is everything we do. Suppose in a day you make a checklist of all the small and big things you did and how many of them were affected by your own ingrained patriarchy. All four of us would also be surprised. I'll give you one
True.
example. I'm like all this, we write about women, we talk about women, right? So I was changing my daughter's school. Okay. And they had this online form thingy, and I filled up everything and everything. And then this emails did not come to my inbox. They in fact went to the fathers. So I asked my husband, and my husband was like, "School se kuch aaya tha, maine padha nahi." So again, someone who can read office emails can pretty
Right.
much interpret what the school wants him to do for his child. अब मुझे समझ नहीं आया क्या लिखा था. So then I just wrote to the school that can you like mark the mails to me so that because I'm the one who's got the mental load of that. And then you know what they said? I was zapped. They were like, yeah, actually, our form didn't have mother and father. It was written parent one and parent two. And I myself had filled up my husband as parent one.
Oh.
It was a huge learning moment for me, right?
Yeah,
It was a
yeah, yeah.
reflex because, yes, we take them
So
equal,
we
but
as women also have to unlearn a lot of things.
yes,
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying
Yeah.
to say. So it's this ingrained patriarchy which we are not even aware of, and we don't need to blame ourselves or fault ourselves. It's the way society has been conditioned for thousands of years. It's okay
It's
to
become a
have
part of subconscious now. Yeah.
exactly probably at some basic cellular level now we have that. So unlearning it is a daily process, and when
It
we
is. It
are just
is.
starting out on it, I really don't expect the men to catch up very fast. They haven't, because this only one reason is it's all working for them, honey. It's not working for us. That's why we're sitting and talking. It's sweetly working for them. Their
No,
lives.
but yeah. May I say one thing?
Sure.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
I do feel that when men feel supported in, say, the financial aspect of their life, like I feel that once they feel that, okay, this is something that, a woman is also contributing it is something that is going to urge change. I think that It's not happened for so many years that we cannot discount that. So far, the division of duties and the division of responsibilities was very clear between a man and a wife. And now, all of a sudden, we do have a generation of working women who are changing that reality. So I do feel that we do not expect men to step up as fast, but they might just, we should give them that space and that leeway that they might be compassionate enough if there's an entire generation of working women who are also contributing into the domestic.
I just want to say one thing. I completely agree. What I said was not just man bashing. I understand that patriarchy also affects the men very deeply. See, it's a whole responsibility to know that you have to keep providing for your family, your children, your parents. They are, and I know men who feel this strain. Like Kritika said, sharing all burdens is what is going to help. I'm not saying that they don't have, we should also share their burdens. And having to take just the financial and social responsibilities in our society is also a burden. And I know that men feel it, they feel the heat, plus they're not able to express because of their conditioning. So I totally agree. I'm not into man bashing, but I'm just saying the current scenario, the way it is, it needs a shift both ways. I completely agree.
Agreed. Okay, so I think we're kind of out of time. So last 10 minutes, I just quickly want to delve into this question, which is very important. So the other day, my friend came over from America, and over there, she's married. She has 2 daughters, and her daughter goes to the school, and she's a 6, 7 year old, which is a समझदार daughter. तो she went to school and वहाँ उन्होंने देखा that another a couple was coming and dropping their child to the school, and the couple was a same sex couple. And then she came home and asked her mother, how can you have 2 mothers, and why don't I have 2 mothers? I want 2 mothers. So how do you bring this dynamics to अभी तो adults भी नहीं समझे इन चीजों को. How do you bring this to your children?
So I feel it all starts as early, and we should not kill a child's curiosity. I think why adults are struggling to understand today is because we've never been taught. We've never even been, they would probably just diss out our thoughts. That's what personally I feel, that, those things, those questions were always, they were shut in the closet, and like that, it's not required, it's not important, it's a minority maybe, so we don't have to speak. But I feel that a child actually, and being a mother, being a mother, I think we can. I have definitely seen this. My daughter coming up asking me questions, and I give her the kind of education these days. Thankfully, we have the right platforms. We have the right books. We have such interesting books for children, which talks about all sorts of people, and you see so many people like. These days, like sometimes if my daughter sees, there's this boy who's, having a nail paint, wearing a skirt, she doesn't, get very frightened about it. And she just, she just feels that, okay, this boy likes to wear skirts. So she puts it very simply, in her mind and everything. So I think the conversations have to be started very early on. It's a huge responsibility for parents, for adults, for society, not to pass on wrong information, not to suppress those questions, because then what happens, they go back in their shell, they try to find answers, and they grow, they probably will see Google, and that's where you get a whole lot of different economics. You don't know what's right. So you pass on, you are an adult, pass on the right knowledge to them. I feel it's very important what you teach your children today. Be very honest with them, be very honest about your flaws, about the society, about the people, the kind of people you live with, and kindness, support. This is all very, very important. So the foundation, if it's built strong, can definitely, we might get intimidated by the kind of questions like you mentioned that, her daughter came, and yes. So yes, we can definitely educate. I always feel a book is an answer to a lot of these queries. I always feel that, especially at this mind. So my house is more of children's book right now. So you should always answer with a lot of honesty. Answer what is suited for that age. in their own terms so as not to
Because,
make it
you know,
complicated.
as parents also, we are also kind of learning new things every day. And जब मेरी दोस्त ने मुझे ये कहा था, like, I don't know how to answer this, if my daughter ever asks this, because if we were never questioning our parents, and two, even if we would have, हमें चुप करा दिया जाता था. So we don't know how to answer these questions as parents, so we are kind of learning the whole
Yes,
process of this
yes.
too, when it's our first time. So,
Yeah.
Kriti, what do you have to say?
Yeah. So I feel that the fact that we have defined family as one male, one female, and bacha is
Yeah,
also something that we need to start questioning
Yeah.
ourselves for.
yeah,
Is a family perfect if it is only heteronormative? Is a family imperfect if it is out of this, dynamic? So,
yeah,
first of all, if we can answer things ourselves, first we need to answer things to ourselves and be okay with our own emotions about an LGBTQ family, or you know, uh, an endogamy. Basically, increase our own endogamous periphery. So if once we accept that this is also a normal family, and then only would we be able to explain that to a child, that it doesn't, a home or family doesn't necessarily mean two people of different genders and children. Only then would be able to explain to them that a home or family means comfort, coming back, or secure
happy
environment
people.
for,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So one, that, and definitely, I saw a movie which kind of began, and it was like it was a LGBTQ movie itself, and there was somebody on the radio who was kind of talking about how this writer could not publish or did not get any acceptance when his children's books were based on acceptance of the community. And any kind of children books were selling, but his children books were not kind of gaining popularity or being published easily, just because they were kind of trying to build that the inclusiveness. And I feel that if we expose our children, just as Aditi said, if we expose our children to a more inclusive environment right from the beginning through our text, say in our mythology, we have so much references to, LGBTQ plus and queer behavior as well. Like we have so much exposure to homosexuality, and if we can expose our children through mythology or through books, that okay, this is also normal, this is also normal, this is also normal. It might not, you might not see it in every house, but doesn't mean it's not okay.
yeah.
A majoritarian approach, like you need to build that. We've always had a majoritarian approach. Whatever everyone is doing is right. Whether it is right or wrong is secondary. But
It's
if
not, yeah, yeah.
something is done by everyone, it is something that we believe is
It
right.
has got to
Marriage,
be
say,
right.
for example, is done by
Yeah.
everyone. Live-in relationships done by a few people. So automatically our conditioning goes to a majoritarian is right. So if we can kind of build, ingrain or make our children accepting of newer thoughts and newer ways of processing information.
Yeah.
This is a conditioning. It's not that we believe that marriage or live-in relationship, marriage right and live-in relationship is not right. It is a majoritarian approach. If we kind of ingrain, my child believes that everything that is big is better than everything that is small. So she has that belief that, oh, I have a bigger piece. I have a bigger, this is bigger. This is bigger means
Hence,
something
it
that
is
she has
better.
approval
Yeah,
for. Yes,
yeah,
exactly. So if we can kind of tell her that a big and a small are both holding equal value, or something that is done by everyone is holding as much value as something that is done by lesser people, I think that kind of an approach would help heaps and bounds, and normalizing things.
right,
Yeah.
right. Shalini, what do you have to say?
I think I completely agree, especially the part that Aditi made about there being a lot of more inclusive texts and books, and Kritika's point about mythology is also excellent. But what I also want to say here, as the mother of someone who turns 18 in 2 months and another child who's 15, is
Wow.
that there's going to be a lot that your child, I mean, whether believe it or not, you're not going to be able to control their outside exposures. And I'm not a
Absolutely.
bad mom if I couldn't control it. No, so the thing here, so the thing here is that they are going to know and learn and make their own opinions and have much more information than you, honestly
Mm.
speaking.
Yeah.
You have to be that space where they can come and talk to you about it. And
Yeah.
if you yourself are accepting and kind, they sense it. If you yourself have reservations about you, your child senses it like nothing else. And your
Mm.
child will judge you for it. When J.K. Rowling's controversy erupted, my elder one was a Harry Potter super fan. Okay. And one day I was so surprised to find angst in that child's tone when Harry Potter's name
Mhm.
or J.K. Rowling's name came up. Because my child believes that the binary is not what it should be. That is a worldview that the child has formed on his own, right? We
Yes.
didn't start out
Yeah.
teaching that every day. I endorse
Yeah.
it, but it is his worldview. And he was so angry and disturbed about her comments and how she could do that. So, what I'm saying is, you have to understand that. You have to understand where the child is coming from. And kindness and acceptance, if it's coming from you, if they know they can talk to you about it, then it's fine. Otherwise, they're simply never going to talk to you about it and have their own worldview. You won't even know what they know.
You wouldn't even become a part of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. So that is all. I mean, that is just my little experience as a parent because they enlighten us every day. If I hear my kids and their cousins talk, suddenly it's very, in our strata, educated people now, it's very normal, So I hear my
Mm.
nephews or my nieces say, oh, so and so came out. And then we just joke with them, came out, matlab bahar aaya. And then they'll be like, Arey, aapko ye bhi nahi pata. And then they'll tell you. They'll be sweet. So have that conversation, make that space where they know that that conversation is accepted. Because they
Otherwise,
said,
otherwise it's dangerous. The other way is just
yes,
dangerous.
yes,
They're not going to tell you
it's
anything.
dangerous anyway having children that age. You don't know what we're doing, but at least make that space so that you get a little bit of that. And rest, as these two said, it's basically about inclusivity. Whether it's gender,
Absolutely.
whether it's sexuality, whether it's even religion, race, it's just about inclusivity, bringing to them diverse thoughts in whichever way we do that.
Absolutely. So wonderful talking to you guys, Aditi, Kritika, Shalini, and thank you, Sabine and Ananke, for giving us this platform to be able to talk so openly about all these issues. And wonderful, lovely knowing you, lovely talking to you, and hopefully we'll meet again soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank
It
you
was a
so
pleasure.
much. Thank you, Sara. Thank you,
Thank
Anand.
you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Bye
Lovely
bye.
meeting you guys.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Likewise.